See, before we start the webinar, I just want to take 4 minutes of your time because we saw a lot of new people who are not our customers who joined. So we just want to give you a brief introduction to CocoTown. So I'm going to share the screen. Okay, so welcome all to CocoTown's webinar. Because of your different time zones, I just say have a good day. And we have, CocoTown is in the business of creating and empowering chocopreneurs. We are not just an equipment manufacturer company. Our mission is to pioneering craft chocolate technology, and our vision is to be the one-stop shop for the chocopreneurs and foodpreneurs to create award-winning chocolates and gourmet foods. So we started our company in 1992 as a specialty kitchen trading company, but then we always wanted to be innovative. That's why we named our parent company as InnoConcepts. And then when we had a chance in 2009 after the recession to pivot, we created the CocoTown. And we always focused on sustainability. Before the sustainability became a cliche word, we always focused on cocoa farming, customers' businesses and environment. For example, we use only this high quality stainless steel as much as possible, so it doesn't end in the landfill. And also these machines have been working for 16 years, 17 years with minimum maintenance. And also we want to make sure our customers also grow their business and become successful. That's why during the pandemic, we came up with the idea of having the Empowering Chocopreneurs webinars, and we cover a lot of different topics. And today we are trying a new topic on collaboration. So we are trying a lot of new things like breakout rooms and, more conversation between the people along the value chain. And then we have enabled and accelerated the bean to bar craft chocolate movement by making it accessible for anyone to start the business, because it's a low initial investment, minimum footprint, and basic knowledge and skills is enough. And then we know farmers can sell as a value added products instead of selling and as a commodity. So, and we are three pillars: equipment, education, and exposure. In addition to the education, there's webinars. We also have the Bean to Bar Bootcamp, and we also help our customers to exhibit in the international chocolate festivals at a discounted price, so they can get more exposure. And then we are always, transparency. We have price transparency. If you look at the chocolate industry, I don't think any other company puts their prices. Always says they ask for a quote. So when you ask for a quote, you don't know who is getting what. But we are very transparent all over the world. No matter where you are, you pay the same price. And we have the consistent pricing structure. And a lot of our, exports, like people outside the US, they want some financial assistance. So now we are working on that too. So if you need any financial assistance to start like buying the machines, please contact us. We can help you because we want you to be successful. So we focus on R&D and we have patent on our machines. And then we also have the machines on different sizes. Like you can start with your kitchen and you can grow to your big facility that can process 100, for example, the Winnover, you can do 100 kilos an hour. And then this is our brief timeline. We started at the company in 1992. We introduced the right product in 94. Before that, we were trying different things. And then in 2007, we started selling chocolate grinders. 2009, we registered CocoTown, and we have the patents and everything is here. So I always want to finish with the mantra, that's Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. That translates as, may all the beings everywhere in the universe be happy and free, and may the thoughts, words, and actions of my own life contribute in some way to that happiness and to that freedom for all. So it's not just, my wish, but it's the CocoTown family's wish. So everybody in the CocoTown believes in it. So thank you.
Good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to see some very familiar faces and also people from all over the world. So thank you for those that are up early, those that are up late. I am going to go ahead and start sharing my screen, and we'll make sure that everybody can see this. Let's see. Are you seeing collaborating across the cocoa value chain? Hooray, technology is working. Okay. So for our time together, I'm just going to do a little bit of housekeeping. Our session, as a reminder, is being recorded and will be posted publicly. So make sure that you're just aware of that. I'm encouraging, because we're going to be doing a lot of interaction, to use I statements and use your own experiences versus theories necessarily, and try not to speak for others. Be present. Some of you might have expected this to be a webinar, but because it's an interactive session, we'd love for you to be present. And if you're comfortable, turn your camera on. Healthy and diverse participation, we really do. Later in this session, we're going to open it up for conversation, and we would love to hear from all of you. Those of you that are used to talking a lot, maybe hang back a little bit, and those that are used to being quiet and just an observer on the wall, we encourage you to speak as well, because we're going to be able to learn from you. Oop, I lost my controls. 1 second, trying to figure out how to, okay. My apologies. Can't figure out how to, here we go. Okay. Also, we want this to be a super collaborative and encouraging environment. So there might be things that people share that haven't worked for you. Instead of saying, hey, that'll never work, talk about what has worked for you instead. And then finally, we encourage active listening, humility, and learning. I think all of us are going to be able to learn something today. I've learned a lot already in collecting feedback from folks in the industry, so I'm excited to be able to share that with you. A few Zoom reminders. If you haven't already, go ahead and rename yourself. There's like 3 little dots in your screen that'll allow you to rename yourself, just where your name, where you're from, what you do, or your organization name. Please stay on mute unless we're actively in discussion, and then captions are enabled. So for those of you that it's easier, particularly if English is your second language, to be able to read, go ahead and enable those. And then you can, I believe there is a way to change the language if you'd like as well. But we're going to launch our first poll just to have an understanding of who's here. So Teresa's going to do that for us. While we are waiting for the poll to come, the poll results to come. Sorry, I'm just trying to. Wanted to just say what a wonderful mix of people we had sign up for this session. And already, so what I saw was quite a few makers that were interested in wanting to connect with both farmers and consumers. We had several farmers register for today, and then everybody, so this is good news, everybody wanted more sales opportunities, so we expect to be able to talk about those today. And there were also several mentions of more economic distribution. So we're excited about that. If you haven't seen the poll yet, that should be popping up on your screen. Anyone else? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share those results. So we have quite a few chocolate makers on today. We have a few cocoa farmers, some researchers, a chocolatier, wholesalers and retailers. So we are ready for a good conversation. I'm excited about the mix of people that we have. Thank you for coming. Okay. Well, just by way of introduction, my name is Kim Wilson. I'm co-founder of Good King Snacking Cacao in 2015 and co-founded that with the intention of increasing farmer community income and equity across the value chain. The reason for that is when I first got into cocoa, it was said that about the average cocoa farmer earned about $1/4 of a living wage. And I was part of an industry group with the goal of sustainably doubling yields, which best case scenario, if supply and demand still meet, gets farmers halfway to a living wage. So I wanted to do more value-added steps in the farming communities with the goal of making finished products at origin, and realized that from farming to finished products is a really long gradual road that typically starts with serving the local community before export. So in 2022, I co-founded Cocoa Future Collaborative to provide support for farming communities, particularly women who want to make finished or semi-finished cacao-based products in communities. So the two organizations have the same goal, but started at different times, and certainly have different goals in terms of ownership, with the first being something that's established in the US and the other established to support groups around the world. So for today's session, we are going to be sharing industry examples and ideas. I have collected quite a few video interviews that I'll be sharing, so that you'll hear not just from me at all. Almost all of the ideas I'm sharing are actually other people's ideas that we've brought in for the purposes of brainstorming and sharing. We'll then break out for discussion and brainstorm amongst ourselves. So you'll have a chance to hear from others in our group today and share ideas with one another. We'll report those ideas back. And then throughout, I just encourage you to make connections, build relationships, ask questions, use the chat liberally. We definitely want you to make connections while here. The other thing that I will note, that even though the session is being recorded and the video is going to be posted, if possible, just have a place to take notes. We're going to be sharing a lot of stuff pretty quickly. And so there might be ideas that you want to learn more about how to implement, people that you hear that you want to, make a note to follow up with. Any questions or clarifications, you can drop those in the chat. And then especially we'll also need the notes for the breakout. So just encourage you to pay attention for what's in it for you. Each collaboration, a good collaboration, is going to have shared benefits both ways. So as we get started, I just want to encourage you, I think each of you, this was a question that we asked in your registration, but each of you probably has one person or group or more than one that you'd like to collaborate more with. So I just encourage you even right now to keep that group or person in mind as we start going into the meat of our session today. So first, I'm going to be sharing about 4 or 5 videos from several folks in the industry. They each gave longer interviews that we don't have time to share today. So all of that is now posted on our YouTube channel, Cocoa Future Collaborative. First, we're going to hear from Sean sorry.
I'm Sean Askinosie, and I am the founder.
Wasn't quite ready for that yet. First,
I'm Sean Askinosie, and I
am so sorry. Okay. Well, first we're going to hear from Sean Askinosie, and I think a lot of us know that they're known for their commitment to profit sharing, and that's a really great place for collaborations to start because it creates alignment and shared purpose for growing both businesses at the same time. And then what I love about what Sean shares here is how he went the extra mile to ensure that the farmer groups that he's working with are able to fully participate in the profit sharing. So
I'm Sean Askinosie, and I am the founder and CEO of Askinosie Chocolate. We are a really small company based in Springfield, Missouri, and I started about 16 years ago, and I was a lawyer before that. And we have about 21 full-time employees in the company, and it's been that way for a long time. And that's the size of the company is really by design. We like being small. Our calling or our vocation is to make the best tasting direct trade chocolate that we can make. And then we have a sort of nested.
Whoops. My apologies.
Vocation within that, which is working directly with farmers and also working with students. And then working with farmers, our profit share program is really important to us, and direct trade program, which is helping farmers become banked, helping them open bank accounts and be able to receive money. And then we work with those farmers in community development through the Chocolate University Foundation. I wanted to help them receive money, and that may sound kind of simple, but it wasn't, because many of these farmers didn't have a bank account. So back in the beginning, for example, in Tanzania, I literally went to the bank, the closest bank to the village, and help them open a bank account. Fast forward that to today, what it looks like is all of the farmers in the 4 origins that I'm buying from, which is Tanzania, Philippines, a place in Ecuador north of Guayaquil, and then in the south in the Amazon in Zamora, all of them are now their own exporters of record. That's a very big deal because it means they get to keep more money. The way we disperse money is different in each origin, but so we're wiring money in 2 of the 4 cases directly to farmers. And then in the case of, well, actually 3 of the 4 cases. And then in the case of Tanzania, they have a 40-member co-op that they've had for a very long time, legally registered with the government of Tanzania. And so we pay that 40-member co-op into their account, and then they govern how it's distributed from there. And in the case of the Philippines, we pay two farmers, and then they're buying wet beans outside of their own farms, and so they are the ones responsible for that. And then in the case of the farm near Guayaquil, we pay to one farmer and buy all of his primary crop, and he's supplementing that by buying some wet beans in the neighborhood, so to speak. So yeah, that's how that works.
So just one other thing, Sean shares a lot more on YouTube about quality, relationship, broader community benefits of their partnerships, but we are going to hear one more video from Sean.
I'm Sean.
And that is on prepayments. One of the things that I hear quite a bit from cocoa farming communities, particularly those that are doing processing in a central location for post-harvest, is that the challenge of capital when buying the wet beans is always real. So here's a little bit more from Sean on how they structure their prepayments.
I have used contracts from the very beginning, not so much because there's some kind of enforceable document, but because they're a roadmap of what we want and what we expect them to deliver. So it helps both sides. It helps us and it helps them understand just the basic terms of the agreement. And in every case, so in every bean purchase that I've ever made, except maybe 2, for the last 16 years, have included terms in the payment. So what that means is we are paying farmers well in advance of their relinquishment of the custody of those cocoa beans at port, and certainly well in advance of us receiving them on a container in the United States. What this essentially does is help those farmers finance their harvesting operations or post-harvest operations at what you might just consider a 0% interest loan. So we're just wiring that money as a part of our terms agreement with them, so that they have access to that capital and can use it however they see fit. We're not governing how they use that money, have no management say-so over what they do with that money, and we just expect that they're going to be using it to accomplish the goals of the contract that we have between us. And it's turned out to be really helpful to the farmers. And one of the questions that comes up is, and especially, I think about this as a lawyer, and that is, there's a lot of risk. And so what can be done to mitigate risk? And there, honestly, other than the development of the relationship, which is huge, there's not a lot that can be done to mitigate that risk. And one of the things that mitigates it is the length of time that we've been working together. So years and years and years, in some cases 15 years. And that relationship helps mitigate against a risk of loss. And then we also do practical things, like being very careful about where the beans are stored, making sure there's security in those places where we need security for the cocoa beans in storage. Making sure also that we're monitoring moisture content while the beans are being stored in case there's some kind of loss with moisture, which can happen and has happened before, things like that.
All right. I'm just going to let you know too, I am unable to see the chat while playing videos. So if anyone needs to interrupt, just let me know. But we're next going to hear from Monica Rogan. I was speaking with Roy Fratz at Cacao Verapaz from Uncommon Cacao, and had asked him about his favorite collaboration. And he mentioned they had just finished one with Goodnow Farms and suggested that I reach out to Monica to tell us about it. So throughout, one of the things that I love about this is the focus on quality from both sides for this collaboration. So enjoy hearing from Monica now.
Well, my name is Monica Rogan, and I'm with Goodnow Farms Chocolate. My husband and I make fine flavor, single origin chocolate, really highlighting the unique nuances of the different origin beans. We love making our chocolate this way because we have direct relationships with all of our producers and farmers. And that's really important because to be able to make the high quality, fine flavor chocolate that we do, we really rely on people at origin to produce high quality, fine flavor raw materials, beans, because we don't hide behind any, other ingredients in our chocolate bars. When we first started, we actually did an investment in the community to help them with a fermentation facility. And we partnered together. We gave them funds to get materials to build the fermentation facility because theirs was falling apart and they were going to miss the harvest. And then they committed to providing the labor and building it. And by doing this, they increased their production from 6 metric tons annually to 9 metric tons. And we purchased a portion of that, and everything else was theirs to sell to other buyers. So this year we were talking with our farmers. We had a Zoom call. It was actually over a year ago. We were chatting with farmers and with, members from Cacao Verapaz. Roy was there, Teddy was there. And we were talking about the upcoming harvest, upcoming year, what our projections were, how they were feeling. We wanted to hear about challenges they were having so that we could have honest discussions and understand the landscape. And some things that the farmers were talking about were that, costs were increasing. They had more challenges. There were more competitors coming in, trying to purchase cacao from them, and different members of the association had different viewpoints. And, we were all on the call. It was Goodnow Farms, Cacao Verapaz, and also the farmers from Adamayak or Assochivite. And we were hearing, this is what the price is for the wet cacao that's paid. This is what other competitors are offering. And, there's a disparity there. And we talk a lot about paying more for fine flavor cacao, and we do, like we as in chocolate makers in the craft industry, and we do pay more than the commodity price. But this is really a situation of, supply and demand. And this is fine flavor cacao. And if we want to get this fine flavor cacao, we have to really understand what's happening in the marketplace and decide, do we really want to take this? And also decide, do we rely on our partners? Like, what's our relationship like? Do we think that this is going to go through? And we've had a long relationship with these farmers, and we listened to what was happening, and they did have, valid concerns about costs rising and, wanting to make sure that they were paid for their crop. Farming is hard. So it was interesting because Cacao Verapaz, they actually recognized that to be able to compete, they had to increase the price they were paying to farmers. And so they decided to increase the price for the cacao. And then what we did, because it was really important to us to continue to work with Assochivite, and we wanted to work with them, but we realized that, we're far away. Like, they're in Central America, we're in North America, we speak different languages, we have different lifestyles, everything. So we needed to make sure they understood that they were valued, and they understood that, making this bar of chocolate, this flavor profile, it's really important to us. And they know that we love working with them, and we do send down chocolate bars and we do send down notes, and it's a great back and forth, but really you have to pay for the value. So we decided, why not offer a bonus? Because they were having problems securing the same original 10 farmers to give us the cacao to make our flavor profile. And so we said, well, what if we gave a bonus for every, pound of cacao that's produced, you get this much bonus up to 2 tons. And the farmers listened to that. They're like, I think we could make this work. And Roy and Teddy were like, I think this will work. I think this could work. We've never done this, but I think this could work. And we got all of the cacao that we wanted. We got 1.98 metric tons. We said, great, send us an invoice. And we did a wire transfer to Cacao Vera Paz. And actually, last week, they went and they presented checks to the farmers for their bonus.
Hope you enjoyed that
Well, my
story.
name is Monica Rogan.
I just loved seeing how that communication and that back and forth built a better way forward for them. Moving on to Jenny Samaniego of Conexión Chocolate and David Upchurch Chocolatier. Early 2021, I was part of an industry group on decolonizing cacao, and David Upchurch was there, and several of us from the community just loved hearing his stories of commitment to purchasing origin-made chocolate from Conexión in Ecuador as a chocolatier, which is, something a little bit newer to this area. And so here's a brief intro of their businesses and the benefits that they find in working together. You'll also find quite a few more stories from them on our YouTube channel. One, Jenny unpacking for other origin makers, a little bit about what to consider as you move from, more traditional farming to an entire food production, farming to food production. And then David has some advice for chocolatiers looking to switch from industrial chocolate to craft couverture. So here we'll hear from Jenny and David.
Hello, my name is Jenny Samaniego. I am the founder of Conexión Chocolate and also the founder of the Cacao and Chocolate Summit, and I am a board member of Heirloom Cacao Preservation. Conexión Chocolate is a company based at Origin in Ecuador, and we work directly with 4 cacao organizations in the country, over 3,000 small family farmers. And we craft all our chocolate in Ecuador, and we are serving to the professional industry in the US and Europe as well. So what we're doing is a specialty chocolate, ethically sourced and crafted at Origin.
Hello, my name is David Upchurch. I'm a chocolatier based in San Francisco, California. And I just make classic confections. I'm trained in European style, but I like to bring some California vitality to it. I believe Jenny and I met at the Northwest Chocolate Festival in 2017 or 2018. I think it was 2017. Well, Conexión seemed like a very unique program. Chocolate made at Origin was still a very unique, unusual thing. And what Conexión was doing was couverture designed for professional use. So that made it probably singular. I can't recall anyone else at that time doing couverture at Origin, which spoke to Jenny's training as a chocolate maker and her awareness of the industry. And then there's just the flavor and the quality.
In the first one, it is David's know-how, because I know David is super humble, but I know David used to, he came from recruiting, David, I always say there's so much expertise and know-how, and you're a very talented chocolatier. So I think we have benefited so much through it, because we're able to kind of sit and talk through flavor. And I love when you text me and, hey, listen, I found this flavor in the chocolate. Or, hey, listen, Jenny, seems as you mentioned, this batch seems to be more fluid than the other one. And only pointing out that is we're able to talk, why can that happen? Because even we're using the same recipe, the same cacao, the same origin, nothing has changed. Why is this happening? So that is so much an awareness point for us, that we can go back and say okay, let's find out why this is happening. So I think those are a learning parts that are naturally happening into the craft chocolate industry as like, a professional line as we are in this case. And another thing is also that, like, we feel like David is our brand ambassador without, like, even signing a contract or without, like, doing anything, because only our friendship and, of course, the love for the chocolate, the love for the people, for Ecuador, that is, like, in David's heart now is, like, we see every time, like, he takes on, like, things, or he say, like, I'm willing to kind of bring more chocolatiers that appreciate this chocolate, even if I'm jealous because I don't want anybody else to use this chocolate because it's mine. So, and that really, help to develop the awareness of the brands. And for us, like, as Conexión or leads in my heart, what happens is that I say, how do I help producers the most will be, like, buying more cacao from them at 40-50% of, the price differentiation, or, like, bringing more know-how or etc. So in that way, like, we're able to bring more chocolatiers on board, or more people that care about what we do, we're able to really kind of get back most directly to our producers in country.
I get to hear, understand more about why the chocolate works the way it does, why it's different, the nuances I can take advantage of. So the dialogue between Jenny's team and myself is fantastic, and it makes it worthwhile. It's exciting. I think it can also be quite frustrating, I imagine, for a new chocolatier to learn to use these chocolates and not have the backup, the expertise, or the ability to learn quickly and easily. So having that dialogue with Jenny and her team is fantastic. It makes it very worthwhile.
We have one final video coming, and that is from Lila Carvajal Urker of Cocoa Supply in Ecuador. When I first met Lila, I loved her transparency and range of options for value addition at origin. She doesn't think of herself really as a middle person with a traditional markup or margin, which tends to put significant price pressure on farming communities. Instead, she strategically operates to create efficiency on the entire process in the best place from farmers to makers, depending on the goals of her customers. So her ingredients range from raw cacao beans to finished couverture as well. And in support of agroforestry models, Cocoa Supply also sells several other ingredients from their farming partners, including cacao pulp, dragon fruit, lulo, coffee, passion fruit, hibiscus, blackberries, and vanilla. Just a heads up, there's a little bit of an audio problem in the first few seconds, but that clears up. So enjoy hearing from Lila.
Sure, my name is Lila Carvajal, and I'm with Cocoa Supply. We are a fourth generation business, basically starting from the farmers in the late 1880s, and all the way now to my company, which started in 2003. In the USA. We have been through farming, processing, importing, and distributing. So this is basically what we have been adapting over the last 100 years. And it has been quite a journey, a very fulfilling journey with a lot of ups and downs, but it is a beautiful journey. One of the things that we do and we promote is that going back to transparency, the best way of having transparency is to actually have the chocolate maker to buy directly from the farm. That's really the true meaning of direct trade. Somewhere in the middle, there needs to be an import and export. Somewhere in the middle, there is even better if we do some processing in the origin, or, even if it's just a screening out or bagging or it's doing some nips or anything that they need to do, because it just also creates less waste. But The idea is that chocolate maker is able to buy directly from the farm and use us as a service fee, call us their commercial kitchen if they want. So they decide how much is processed, how much they still want to do as beans in their processing facility in destination, how much they need butter, how much they need that. But once they pay directly the farmer, they know exactly how much they got. There's no they go straight to their bank account, they have the transaction, they can give them the premiums based on the quality or what they ask the farmer to do based on their, their crop or anything that they would like to do. The great thing about it creates a very clear value on what goes to each part. I mean, we are part of the processing, but you will also see clearly what the shipping values are, what the export values are, and it also gives the chocolate maker a clear add-on on what he can or not make according to the market that he's looking. That means that they need to adjust the bars to the price, and they also are able to explain of what the value goes. It doesn't go into some trader. It goes into exactly processing, into shipping costs, into customs broker. I think once everyone understands where the value goes, it makes it very easy to also understand where they can put a better effort or not in pricing. And I do think that it will mostly benefit the farmers and also the chocolate makers, because then transparency reports are a breeze. As I say, there's also a cultural issue where we also act as a mediator between two cultures and explaining a little bit what one's problems are and what the other ones, and the farmers also how chocolate makers are seeing them. And we see some changes. It's beautiful because at the end of the day, we do see that co-ops and so when they say like, oh, we want more women involved. Last time I visited them, they were already like, well, now we have more women involved. And it's true. They were like, now we're going to show you how they're doing the cocoa and everything. And it's interesting that changes go from both sides. On one side, the farmers and co-ops are seeing what the chocolate maker wants and is trying to adapt to that. And the other side, the chocolate maker sees what the farmer's problems or hindrances are and is willing to adapt and find ways to work together. So what I like the most is the willingness of both to cooperate.
All right, those are the end of our videos. Some other proven ideas and things that we've collected from the industry. These first three come from Emily Stone of Uncommon Cacao. She just encourages makers as much as possible to share finished chocolate products with the producers. Send those back. They have ways to get them back. Origin tours, I think they've actually got one going right now or just finishing up, but virtual origin tours as well is a great way to start a relationship with the farming communities. And then long-term multi-year purchasing relationships. This is something particularly makers over time have, signature bars, from single origins in their lineup. And that is also super helpful from her perspective. Sensory analysis from origins is also something that several people suggested. Cho, Equal Exchange, and Common Meridian have been doing this for a while, but others as well. In fact, that was a request from our partners in Coaglixal in Honduras, and so Cocoa Town kindly sent a machine down there recently to help them out with that, with quality and sensory analysis at origin. Relocating value-added chocolate production steps, Lila touched on that quite a bit, but that's happening, not only Conexión, Cocoa Supply, but also just more recently, the US government is realizing that there's benefits to processing food close to where it's grown. And so they've invested domestically over the past year or two, and then just announced about a month ago that they'll start investing abroad as well to support more food production in farming areas. Finally, participatory storytelling with photography, video, social media, and stories. One of the things that I hear so often from retailers and and educators is how important the story is along with the quality. And oftentimes the person telling the story is a few steps removed from the person that the story is about. So as much as possible, just creating space for the person that is the first person in the story to tell their own story, and then sharing that is also a huge opportunity that we've seen a little bit more in coffee, but it's starting to make its way into cocoa and chocolate. Okay, I had a chance to, we have some farmers on the call, so hopefully we'll be hearing from them too, but I had a chance to collect some feedback from our farmer, one of our farmer partners in Indonesia. And this one is from Ayu Antariksa Rambe, and she leads a large co-op in South Sulawesi, Indonesia. She's always learning and growing, so you'll see that in her points. But first she said, maintain a good relationship and frequent communication with transparent two-way information sharing. And for here, I just encourage, create a rhythm and checking in with your partners, the person that you have in mind right now, just however you can. Even if there's not an immediate need that you have on your end, just checking in, seeing how they're doing. WhatsApp tends to work well if that's an international group, but just doing that, because often things will come up that might not have been worth mentioning, but are important to your business and the two of you as you move forward. Building a shared commitment to produce quality cocoa products. And she had mentioned standard operating procedures that are easily understood by the farmers. And one of you mentioned that in your feedback. It was a maker or an educator, I can't remember, that said they had that. So heads up for whoever that person was to connect, and we'll get you two connected, because that was something she was looking for from her partners. And then this last one was actually provided by Veronica Santa Fe. She's an Ecuadorian academic on sustainability and indigenous entrepreneurship, and had mentioned some other things that if your partner groups desire to have some of these things, it might be best in lieu of paying more to do something like crop insurance or an investment fund for them that might be easier to coordinate across multiple groups. And likewise, community development, several of the groups she was working with talked about medical or dental clinics, healthy lifestyle training, things like that really make a lifestyle difference for those origins. One that we might overlook is collaborating with the environment. And I wanted to mention this specifically for makers at origin, because it's hot and humid, and to consider options beyond bars is something that might make a lot of sense in terms of collaboration. So some of my favorites, cacao juice, puree or powder. Lila from Cocoa Supply has some great examples of this, and for those that are interested in getting into it, she would be an awesome resource to learn from. Chocolate sauce and spread. I first tried, the first time I went to Indonesia and was served chocolate, it was not in a bar, it was a sauce drizzled on a fried banana, and it was so memorable. So just want to encourage, that was something that's definitely working with the environment and the weather there. Cacao balls for drinking chocolate. That's something that I first tried from the Alliance of Rural Communities, Trinidad and Tobago. Jillian Goddard, for those of you that are familiar. And then iced chocolate drinks is something that I've had quite a few places, all over cocoa farming communities. Cocoa powder and butter, that's something that our partners in Honduras have been pressing cocoa powder and butter for their local and regional markets, and then also making like a chocolate drink with ice. It can be mostly they market it as iced cocoa, but something that's an easy powdered drink to make for their local market. And then finally, my personal favorite, snacking cacao. That's something that, of course, doesn't melt in origin, and I'm happy to chat with anyone that's interested in making that as well. Some feedback from consumer educators, and I'll throw in their retailers. For origin makers, this feedback came from Estelle Tracy of 37 Chocolates, who also moderates the Well Tempered Facebook group, for those of you that are familiar with that. She mentioned to educators and retailers, just, if you're working with origin chocolate, be willing to plan further in advance because of that transport issue that takes longer if they're not available here. Budget for carrying inventory too, because again, it's more logistics involved with carrying that product. And then also, if requesting a special run or a large order, she just wanted to remind folks to, offer a deposit up front, because, often the capital outlay for origins is a lot higher, relatively speaking, than it would be for us here to do that. And you'd heard that from Sean Askinosi as well, of paying that up front to help out with the costs of shipping. For the origins, something to keep in mind is educators and retailers tend to carry multiple origins. So making sure that you're picking your 1 or 2 top best sellers as something to pitch and really focus on for folks to support. And then if possible, fulfill from within the country that you're wanting to sell to. That's just, the reality of who origin communities are going to be competing against. If an educator or a maker an educator or a retailer can order from just, a state away, and it's going to take 2 or 3 days. The reality is there are last minute opportunities that'll just be a lot easier to keep your product top of mind if you're available closer to the places that you're hoping to sell. And both of them said, and I think I mentioned this already, that, the combination of great chocolate and a great story is really what sells well. And so keeping those in mind and making sure, particularly those from origins, just have social media and your, stories and pictures available for educators and retailers to use and share with their customers. So that was an encouragement that I've gotten from quite a few people as well. Some additional ideas that came from that group that I was talking about last year in Decolonizing Cacao, a training exchange and mutual coaching. We've all worked hard to be experts in our craft, whether you're in the farming communities or you're a maker or you're a retailer, we're constantly honing skills, and I've met a few that aren't anxious to share that hard-earned knowledge. So ask questions, become curious, and be willing to have those knowledge exchanges with one another. Centering people, competency, and culture versus plants and land. This idea actually came from Brian Cisneros of the Northwest Chocolate Festival, and no doubt there are exceptional growing regions and terroir for cacao, but he noticed that awards have more to do with the expertise of the people handling the cacao and making the chocolate. And so let's celebrate where we can their hard work and center those stories more so than maybe the plants and land and terroir and genetics. And then finally, and you heard this from Jenny Samaniego as well, that cross-promoting and marketing our partners. And I say this for 2 reasons. One, great partners, of course, deserve to be celebrated in public, and you want them to grow, to be successful and send more business their way. But also, this is really a place where craft chocolate is completely differentiated from industrial chocolate. And so, the fact that you can tell specific stories that, we know who grew our cacao, or we know where our cacao is going and who's making it into bars, or we know our customers by name, that's something that's really special to our industry. And so making those connections for people is also a great collaboration. So at this point, I'm going to ask you, what are some examples of other collaborations? I can't see the chat right now. It looks like it's been very lively, so I'm excited for that. Share your ideas in the chat. Raise your hand to share briefly with the group if you'd like. We have a few minutes before we head into our breakout sessions. So actually, I'm going to stop sharing for a minute so I can see what's going on here. Did anybody have any ideas that they want to share?
Me.
I see a question somebody asked that it's very expensive to send finished products from the origin to the countries, especially in the summer in US, it gets so hot, so it has to be temperature thing. So we at CocoTown, we always advise our customers or people who contact us to send it as a couverture. So that is, couverture takes less space and it doesn't have to be temperature controlled. So you're paying less for the shipping. And once it comes here, we even say send whatever the shipping labels in origin countries. If you want to put your shipping labels, send those the wrapper, the bar wrapper, send the bar wrappers with the couverture and find somebody in wherever you want to sell in Europe or US. They can just do the tempering and molding and packaging in the wrapper and sell it. That saves a lot more money and that pays more money to the farmer who is making those chocolate.
Yeah.
So I want to know if anybody has done that couverture, selling as a couverture, and do they have any experience with that?
We have some experience with that with Project Hope and Fairness, which is a nonprofit that's operating in Cote d'Ivoire, and we're using CocoTown equipment. Thank you. And we've been shipping that to a specialty chocolate maker in France, and then they've been tempering and making the final products there. We also produce in-country, or the villages produce in-country finished products, and they face the challenges that you've highlighted about heat and humidity, and also the capacity of local markets to pay the prices that make it profitable. One of the things that we would love to learn about from others is what have people found as effective transportation strategies, for relatively small volume couverture shipments, and to have those be cost effective. We've been using DHL and such, and it's very expensive and hard to do. So I'm curious if anybody has found good solutions to getting the transportation costs down to make it more economical.
That's a great
Hello.
question.
Hi.
Sorry.
Hi, Kim. Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Valeria Larreti. I work directly with Mashpee Chocolate from Ecuador, but I am their representative here in the US. And as a small, so I'm not a farmer, I'm a distributor and retailer. As a small chocolate makers with Mashpee, we struggle also with transportation. And this year we did something a little bit new, which was we literally just tagged along an export from Ecuador from a different chocolate maker. So Mindo Chocolate, love and respect them a lot. They were sending out a big shipment in container, and they put out a message to the other Ecuadorian chocolate makers saying, hey, who would like to participate and bring something? And I contacted Emily Mesa, and they were great. They managed the whole import, but it allowed us to bring something at a time of the year that I wouldn't have brought. It was granted, it was not bars. It was couverture, and it was other cacao products, cacao nibs and other things. But we were able to partner up with them, and they handled the import. And of course, we paid them our portion plus a fee for all the logistics, because it's a lot of work. But I was very appreciative of that, of being able to do that. And I would 100% do that, whether it's us handling the import or them handling the import and us sending stuff with them. But it seemed to work out pretty well. I hope they feel the same way. But I do recommend that if you're in a country that does have other chocolate makers, it's very important to be in a good network within your country that is maybe sending things over here, because those partnerships are very cost effective. And that's it.
That's a great point. And I think we all have, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, appreciate this network of ideas here today. It's helpful to get good solutions.
Well, with that, I'm going to start, unless anybody else had anything they wanted to add, I'm going to start sharing my screen again and send us into breakouts to talk more. Does that sound good? Okay. Here we go. So, okay, so before we head into breakouts, Teresa's going to launch another poll, which is, why is collaboration difficult for you? You can choose up to 5, but I just want to recognize, I think we all talk about wanting better collaboration, and oftentimes there's things that get in the way. So Teresa, are you able? There we go. Yeah, so just recognizing that it's not all just easy and all benefits, but there's actually some sacrifices and costs to make these successful. So I know for me, you know, some of the challenges we have, certainly I am not someone that's super adept at language. And so the language barrier is real. And I spend a lot of time using Google Translate. So grateful for the tools that have come online since then, since I started, because in 2013, that wasn't easy to come by. And so we see some of that coming through. Also, you know, cultural differences. There's just things that, you know, for someone like me that, you know, actually Dawn Meter McCausland, who's on this call today, and I were talking the other day about, you know, in the US, we're not really raised to read between the lines. And so there's cultural differences that definitely come up from time to time that I'm just not even aware of. Got quite a few people that have already piped in on that. Language differences, not enough time. That's real, right? Like everybody's wearing so many hats already. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end that poll. Thank you so much for sharing. So it sounds like a lot of people have the same struggles I do, which is the language barrier, not having enough time, and then, you know, behind that, you know, different time zones, cultural differences, lacking business or financial benefit, or different and competing goals. So that's something to keep in mind too, particularly as we head into the breakouts. So close that out. Okay, so for the breakouts, continue to keep in mind that one person or group with whom you'd like to collaborate more. We have questions that we will put into the chat. You don't have to remember these, although you're welcome to jot them down if you'd like. What is the top collaboration you want to try coming out of all of these ideas that have been shared, and why? And then to make this successful, what do you need to do? And what do you need your collaborator to do? And this is just, you know, kind of hearkening back to what Sean Askinosi was sharing in terms of the contract that he puts in place up front. There's things that, you know, when you collaborate well together, there's things that each party needs to do to make the collaboration successful. So that's what we're talking about there. In the breakouts, where you're going to have 20 minutes. So to start, please just, you know, introductions around the room of 30 seconds each with your name, your company name, where you're from, and where you live now, if that happens to be different. I know people in our industry tend to move around a lot. Your industry roles. So, you know, you might wear a lot of hats, and just mention those things there. And then the person or group with whom you'd like to collaborate more. After you do your introductions, please assign 2 roles to the group. One, a timekeeper, and that's just, you know, to make sure, like, keep an eye on the clock if introductions go too long, or if you look like it's, you know, one person's talking about their idea for a while. Just keep things moving forward, so everybody has a chance to share and interact. And then a note taker who can share back to the group any ideas that come up. So with that, Teresa is going to launch us into breakout rooms of 5 or 6 people or 4 to 6 people. So enjoy meeting your fellow colleagues in the industry.